You are listening to PastThink.com audiobook. Please like and subscribe, thank you. Chapter 45. Xiung murders his wife, Xiung sets fire to an inn. Upon reaching the yamen, the neighbors went into the court, and the magistrate soon came and took his seat. The neighbors all knelt down and made a statement. This hawker fell down with his load of cakes and congee. When we came, we saw two corpses on the ground. One was a monk, and the other a traveling monk, and they were both naked. There was a monk by the side of the traveling monk. The hawker then stated, I always go out early every morning selling my cakes and congee. This morning as I was going along I stumbled over something at that spot, and all my food was spilt, and my cups and plates broken. Sir, please have pity on me. I was surprised to see the two dead bodies. When the neighbors came they arrested me, and brought me to your yamen. I request your honor to have the matter carefully investigated. The magistrate had this statement duly recorded, and issued an order for the neighborhood chief and the coroner to examine the case and report. These men held a post-mortem and duly made their report in detail. They gave their opinions that the traveling monk for some unknown reason had murdered the monk Hai, and then being conscious of his guilt had committed suicide. The magistrate summoned all the monks of that temple to come to court, but when he explained to them the conclusions of the coroner there was not a single one who could throw any light on the mystery. The magistrate released the neighbors on bail, and ordered the temple to arrange for the burial. On this strange amorous affair some neighbors composed a song. We laugh at the monk of Bowen Monastery, who loved a woman willing, and risked their lives for pleasures gay. The idle moments filling, for pleasure which was uncontrolled. The blind, dumb gods consented, for well they knew the sin unfold. They'd both be unlamented. They should have waited and avoid the trial, who was stronger. The ground from blood would have been free, and they had lived much longer. Other neighbors listening to this song also composed one as follows. Lust invites murder without failure, and lays down the cleaver by a naked figure. Big bald head died today, with little bald head lusty, pursued by bosom comrade, in all faith mighty. These two songs were sung in every street in that neighborhood. The wife of Xiung heard them with a distracted stare, but she dared not say a word and felt much worried. Xiung heard of the two murders and understood who had done the deed. He thought, I had unjustly condemned him on insufficient evidence. I have leisure today, so I will go and find Xiung and ask him what he knows about the case. Xiung left the yamen and had just crossed the bridge when he heard someone behind him calling out, Elder brother, where are you going? Upon turning round he saw that it was Xiung and said, Younger brother, I was looking for you. Elder brother, please come to my place where we can talk matters over. They both went to Xiung's inn where they sat down in a small room. There Xiung asked, Elder brother, did I not tell you the truth? Younger brother, please excuse me for the mistake I made. I got drunk that day and accused my wife, and she turned round and said many bad things about you. I was now coming to find you, and was going to confess my fault. Elder brother, I may not be without a fault, but I am a perfectly honest man, so how could you think of me as capable of doing such things? I was afraid that you had been deceived by some ruse, and therefore, I came to find you, and show you a proof of my innocence. He thereupon spread out the monk's robes. When Xiung saw the robes he became excited, and said, Younger brother, excuse me. Tonight I will hack that woman into small pieces, and so appease my wrath. Xiung laughed, You are getting angry again. As you work in the yamen you are supposed to know all about the law. How could you kill her when you have not caught her in the act? Also if I have been telling you nonsense, you would make a mistake in killing her. Then what should I do? It would be better if you follow my advice. Outside the east gate there is Dulong Mountain, a very lonely spot. Tomorrow you can tell your wife that you want her to accompany you to sacrifice at a temple. She can also take her maidservant with her. I will go there beforehand, and when you arrive you can confront her with me, and we will go over the whole matter. Then you can sign a bill of divorcement and release her. Would not that be better? You need not go into details. I know your innocence. That woman is the liar. Of course I want you to know all that has passed between those two. Your plan is admirable, said Xiung. I will go tomorrow with that slut, and I hope that you must not fail to come. If I do not turn up tomorrow, then you can assume that I am the liar, said Xiung. The two friends then took leave of each other, and Xiung returned to his work at the yamen. Upon reaching home that evening he did not say a word, but let everything be as usual. The following morning when he got up he, however, said to his wife, "Last night I dreamt that a spirit accused me of having overlooked some vow. I now remember that I once took a vow at a temple outside the east gate, and have not yet fulfilled my oath. As I have leisure today, I will go there, and would like you to come with me." "Why not go alone?" replied his wife. "What is the use for me to go with you? My oath concerned our marriage so that it is necessary for both of us to go." "In that case we will get away immediately after breakfast," said his wife. "I will go and hire a sedan chair, and buy some incense," said Xiung. He also told the maidservant to get ready, and go with them. He then went to the inn and spoke to Xiung of the arrangements made. Xiung asked him to leave the sedan chairs when halfway up the hill, and walk the remainder of the distance, as it was not advisable to have outsiders about the temple. Xiung agreed to this, and then went to buy the incense and paper. When he got back he found that his wife and servant were dressed up in their best. The wife got in the sedan chair, and Xiung and the maidservant walked behind. When outside the east gate Xiung quietly told the carriers that they were to go to Dulong Mountain, and that he would pay them well. They duly reached the mountain in about 2 hours as the place was only about 7 li from the town. The mountain was covered with green grass and tall poplars, but there was no temple there. When halfway up the mountain Xiung stopped, and told the chair carriers to rest at that place while the three of them would walk the rest of the way. His wife asked, "Why have we come to such a place as this?" But Xiung told her not to ask useless questions. The three then started off, and soon reached the top of the mountain where they met Xiung. The wife then asked, "How is it you did not bring the paper and incense up here?" "I told one of the men to bring that up here," replied Xiung. He took his wife towards an ancient grave that was there. Xiung put his bundle and sword and stick against the trunk of a tree, after which he saluted Pan Xiaoyun. She hurriedly asked, "How is it that you have come here?" As she spoke she stared with fear. "I have been waiting here for you for a long time," he replied. Xiung turned to his wife. "A few days ago you made some serious charges against my sworn brother that he laid his hand on your breasts. There is nobody about here, so you two can now discuss that matter, and make things clear." The wife exclaimed, "Ayaya. Why talk about bygone matters?" Xiung stared at her. "Madam, why not?" "There is nothing to talk about unless you yourself have said something," she replied. "Madam. Is that so?" He then opened his bundle and spread out on the ground the dead monk's clothes. "Do you recognize this clothing?" asked Xiung. Xiaoyun blushed scarlet, and did not reply. Xiung seized the sword, and handed it to Xiung, saying, "You had better ask the maidservant." Xiung seized the girl, and made her kneel down before him. He spoke in a loud voice, "Now you speak the truth, and I will forgive you for what you have done. But if you speak only one lie I shall most certainly kill you on the spot." "Sir," replied the maidservant, "this is not an affair of mine. Do not kill me, and I will speak the truth." She then told him all that had occurred between his wife and the monk, and how she had been bribed to do her part of the plot. Xiung now seized his wife and called out, "Now bitch, tell me the truth, and if you say no falsehood I will not kill you." "It was my mistake," said his wife. As we are man and wife, I beg for your forgiveness. We cannot pass this over so easily, elder brother, said Xiung. Why should she not give a full explanation? I agree. Bitch, give me the whole truth, shouted Xiung. The woman then confessed completely, and told all that had been arranged and carried on with the monk. Xiung then told Xiung to strip his wife naked, which was done. Xiung then took his sash and tied her to the tree. Xiung took the ornaments out of the servant's hair, and said to Xiung while he handed him the sword, why should we spare this little plotter? If she remains there will always be a source from which trouble might grow. That is so, said Xiung, I will kill her myself. The maidservant saw that she was in a dangerous position, and attempted to shriek, but Xiung, with one blow, cut her in two. The woman tied to the tree called out, brother-in-law, please intervene. This is not my affair, replied Xiung. Xiung stepped up to the tree, took hold of the woman's tongue, and cut it off with his sword. He then pointed at her and said, you whore! I have almost been deceived by you. You nearly estranged me from my sworn brother, and might have put an end to my life some day. I think you must have some strange heart inside you, so I am going to have a look at it. He plunged his sword into her breast, ripped open her belly. He took out her heart, spleen, liver, kidneys, and lungs, and hung them up on the tree, and then cut her into 7 parts. He then asked Xiung to come near and discuss matters. He said, now we have killed the adulterer, and the adulteress too. But where shall we now go for safety? We have both committed murder, said Xiung, and the only thing left for us is both to join the brigands at Liangshan Marsh. Stop a bit. Neither of us know a single person at that place, so it is unlikely that they will accept us. You overlook the fact, elder brother, that Song Jiang is in charge there, and he is famous everywhere as a man who is always on the lookout for heroes. We both have military skill, so how could he turn us away? When things are difficult at first and quite easy afterwards, there will be no regret. But as I am an official, I am afraid that I should arouse their suspicions, and that they would not be willing to welcome us. Xiung laughed and asked, was he not a clerk in a yamen himself at one time? But you must not forget that on the day we first drank in an inn I had been with 2 men, and they were leaders from Liangshan Marsh. They even gave me a present of silver, and they will remember me. Very well, younger brother, you go on the road to Liangshan Marsh, and I will return home, and get some money to cover our traveling expenses. That will not do, because if you enter the town you would have a difficulty in getting out if they hear of what has happened today. People would undoubtedly inquire about your wife's absence. I have, however, enough money in this bundle to cover all our traveling expenses. So we had better both go together straightway by the road on the other side of the mountains. They both then packed up their things and set forth. They had only gone a short distance when they heard a voice behind them, and turning round saw a man emerging from the trees. He called, I have been listening to all that you have said, and after committing murder in broad daylight you are now escaping to Liangshan Marsh. Xiung recognized the man as Xiang, a native of Gaotang Prefecture, who however had lived in that neighborhood for many years. He was well known as a housebreaker, and was particularly good in scaling walls. He was known as the flea on the drum. What are you doing here? Asked Xiung. Nowadays I have nothing to do, replied Xiang, so I came here to open some ancient grave and take the things. I happened to see you arrive, and was a witness of what happened, but I dared not intervene. I heard you two talking about going to Liangshan Marsh and joining the bandits. For a long time I have been stealing all kinds of things, even chickens, cats, and dogs, so I thought I had better join you. Would you mind if I go along with you? I think they would be pleased to have you at Liangshan Marsh, said Xiung. You can accompany us if you like. Xiang knew a small footpath, and led the other two. The 2 sedan chair carriers waited until evening, without seeing the 3 persons return. Although Xiung had told them not to go up the mountain yet, at last they went to see what was the cause of the delay. They saw a flock of crows on a grave making a great noise, and upon approaching they saw that the crows were eating the viscera hanging from the tree. They were startled, and immediately hurried down the mountain, and informed Old Pan, who went with them to the yamen to report the case. The magistrate heard the reports, and ordered the coroner to investigate the case on the spot. Upon his return he reported all that he had seen, and gave the names of the victims. The magistrate at once recollected the murder of the two monks, and cross-examined Old Pan, who told him all that he knew of the seducing affairs. The magistrate correctly summed up the case that Xiung had killed the monks, and Xiung had killed his wife, and the girl servant. He issued summons for the arrest of those two men. Xiung, Xiu, and Qian continued on their way, and one evening, at dusk when near Xianglin Hollow they stopped at an inn near a stream. They told the waiter that they had walked about 30 li that day, and were hungry. The waiter said there were no other guests at the inn, and if they liked they could cook the food themselves as the pans were quite clean. "Have you any meat here?" asked Qian. "We had some meat early this morning, but people in the surrounding villages have bought it all during the day," replied the waiter. "We have a little wine left, and also some vegetables." "All right, that will do," replied Qian. "Give us also some rice and we will do our own cooking." This was done, and while Qian did the cooking, Xiu arranged their baggage and spread out their beddings. Xiung took a woman's silver hairpin and gave it to the waiter as payment for the food, etc. Qian got a bucket of water for them to wash their feet and hands. When the wine was ready they asked the waiter to drink with them. Xiu noticed that there were many halberds hanging on the wall under the eaves of the inn, so he asked the waiter why they had so many arms. "Those belong to the landlord of this inn," replied the waiter. "What kind of man is your master?" "As you are travelers, why do you not know the name of this place?" replied the waiter. "The mountain here is called the Dulong Mountain. The high ridge is the Dulong Ridge. Our master lives on the top of that ridge. Within a radius of about 5 li round this place is the Zhu family village. Our headman is Zhu Chaofeng, and he has 3 sons who are known as the 3 heroes. In this area there are about 500 laborers who all work for our headman, and he supplies them with these halberds. This inn is called the Zhu family inn, and we generally have about 10 men staying here who act as a guard, and those are their halberds." "But what do they use the halberds for in such a quiet place as this?" asked Xiu. "This place is not very far from Liangshan Marsh, so that we are always afraid of those bandits coming here to borrow grain from us." "If I give you some money will you sell me one of those halberds?" asked Xiu. "I cannot do that," said the waiter. "All the halberds are numbered, and I have to account for the lot. If one was missing I should be beaten with sticks. Our master has very severe rules about such matters." "I was only joking," said Xiu laughingly. "You must not be afraid of us. I have now had enough, and will now retire, and go to sleep. You gentlemen can go on drinking," said the waiter. When the waiter had gone the 3 men went on drinking, but Xian suddenly asked, "Wouldn't you like some meat with this?" The waiter said they had sold all the meat so that there is none left, replied Xiung. Xian laughed loudly at this, and going to the kitchen came back with a large chicken. "When I went outside to relieve bowels I noticed this bird in the roost," said Xian. "As I could find no meat, I went and killed this chicken, plucked it and cooked it. So that is how we can have it now." "You are still a thief when you take things like this," answered Xiung. "He evidently has not reformed his old habits," said Xiu laughingly. The 3 still laughing set to, and soon tore up the whole bird for their meal. But the waiter could not go to sleep, and very soon he took a stroll round. He saw on the table the bones and feathers, and going to the roost found that the bird was missing. So he hurried back into the room, and asked, "Gentlemen, you seem to have no manners. Why did you steal our rooster?" "No. No," exclaimed Xian. "We bought a bird on the way here, and have not seen yours." "Then where has our bird gone to?" "Perhaps a stray cat, a weasel, or a kite has taken it. But we know nothing about it," said Xian. The bird was in the roost when I left you, said the waiter, so if you have not stolen it, who has? We will not wrangle any further, said Xiung, we will pay for what you have lost. But the cock was our dawn announcer, so all our affairs will be upset now that it has gone. Even 10 taels of silver would not be enough, and I must ask you to return us our cock. Who are you trying to fool? Asked Xiung in a temper. If we do not make up for your loss, what would you do? The waiter laughed and replied, you should not make trouble here, as this inn is unlike others, and you might be arrested on a charge of being bandits from Liangshan Marsh. Xiung cursed the man, saying, even if we were from Liangshan Marsh, how could you arrest us, and get a reward from your village chief? The waiter without replying called out, robbers, and immediately about 5 men rushed into the room. But Xiung met them, and one by one he knocked the men down with his fist. As the waiter was still complaining, Xiung slapped his face and stopped his noise. The 5 men picked themselves up and retreated through the back door. Those men will soon bring others, so we better have a big meal and get away, said Xiung. The 3 friends, after a hearty eating, picked up their things and helped themselves to a halberd each from the inn stock. Xiung said, if we are going to be hung, we might as well be hung for a house as for a cock. So saying, he rushed into the kitchen, lit a torch, and began to set fire to the inn. Very soon the whole place was in flames. The 3 friends set off, but they had not gone far when they found themselves surrounded in the distance on all sides by many hundreds of men with torchlights. Xiung said, let us keep cool, and try to find a footpath somewhere. Xiung said, it would better to stop in one place, and kill these men one by one as they come up to us. We may not go until daybreak. While he was speaking, some of the men were quite close, and they were armed with sticks. Xiung attacked them, and soon killed about 7 men, when the rest retreated. Xiung had done the same thing in another direction with the same result. The 3 friends continued on their way, but did not notice the men hidden in the grass until one of them grabbed hold of Xiung with a hooked pole, and pulled him down into the tall grass. Xiung went to his assistance, but another pole grabbed hold of him. Xiung saw this, and struck the pole with his halberd, and freed his friend. He then stabbed in the grass at the hidden men, and shouting in pain they soon all ran away. But Xiung was missing, and the 2 friends saw no means of rescuing him. They therefore continued on their way, and following any small path they saw, they went towards the east. They soon found themselves outside the circle of flaming torches. They walked during that night, and early the following morning they stopped at an inn. There they had just finished their breakfast when they noticed a man outside who had big eyes and ears. He had a rough appearance, wearing brown silk clothes, with a white belt. He called out to the waiter, our master tells you to go to his village with a load. Xiung recognized the man, and asked him what he was doing there. The man then recognized Xiung and saluted. Union, twixt 3 hamlets broken. Roaring tigers make much sorrow.